Summary of Jane Eyre. Charlotte Brontë. Jane Eyre is a renowned Victorian novel written by Charlotte Brontë and published in 1847. It is a literary masterpiece that has captivated readers for generations with its compelling story, rich characterization, and exploration of complex themes. Set in the early 19th century, the novel offers a vivid portrayal of life in Victorian England, with a particular focus on the social and gender dynamics of the time. Through the eyes of its protagonist, Jane Eyre, the novel delves into themes of love, morality, social class, and feminism, challenging societal norms and expectations. Jane Eyre is celebrated for its passionate storytelling, powerful narrative voice, and its enduring relevance as a timeless tale of personal growth, inner strength, and the pursuit of independence. Part 1. The novel begins with Jane Eyre as a young orphan, around 10 years old, living with her wealthy but cruel aunt, Mrs. Reed, at Gateshead Hall. Jane is mistreated by her aunt and cousins, John, Eliza, and Georgiana Reed. After a particularly harsh incident with John, Jane is sent to the Red Room, a spooky chamber where her uncle had died. This traumatic experience leaves a lasting impact on Jane. Concerned about Jane's rebellious nature, Mrs. Reed sends her to Lowood Institution, a charity school for orphaned girls. Here, Jane befriends Helen Burns, a pious and kind-hearted girl. At Lowood, Jane endures strict discipline and poor living conditions but excels academically. She forms a close bond with Miss Temple, a compassionate teacher, and finds solace in her studies and Helen's friendship. Tragically, Helen falls ill and dies, leaving Jane devastated by her friend's loss. Jane continues her studies and eventually becomes a teacher at Lowood. Part 2. Seeking a change, Jane advertises for a position as a governess and receives a job offer from Thornfield Hall. She becomes the governess for Adele Varens, the ward of Mr. Rochester. Jane arrives at Thornfield and meets the enigmatic and brooding Mr. Rochester. They develop a deep emotional connection, despite their differences in social status and age. Rochester, intrigued by Jane's intelligence and spirit, frequently engages her in conversations and enjoys her company. They grow closer and eventually fall in love with each other. However, their relationship faces obstacles. Jane is tormented by strange occurrences at Thornfield, including eerie laughter and mysterious events. She also becomes aware of a secret locked in the attic, Mr. Rochester's wife, Bertha Mason, whom he married years ago but who is now mentally unstable. On the day of their wedding, the truth about Bertha is revealed to Jane by Bertha's brother. Distraught and feeling deceived, Jane flees Thornfield, refusing to compromise her morals and become Rochester's mistress. Part 3. Jane, destitute and alone, wanders the countryside until she reaches the village of Morton. There, she is taken in by the river's siblings, St. John, Diana, and Mary. They offer her shelter and kindness. Jane adopts the false name Jane Elliot and assists the river's siblings in their charitable work. She becomes close friends with them and discovers that they are her long-lost cousins. St. John, a clergyman, becomes attracted to Jane and proposes marriage, asking her to accompany him as a missionary to India. Jane admires St. John's virtues but realizes she does not love him and rejects his proposal. Suddenly, Jane hears Rochester's voice calling her name across the moors. She believes it to be a spiritual connection and decides to return to Thornfield to find out what has happened to Rochester. Part 4. Jane arrives at Thornfield and finds it in ruins. She learns that Bertha set fire to the building and committed suicide by jumping off the roof. Rochester had tried to save her but lost his sight and a hand in the process. Jane reunites with Rochester, who is now a broken man physically and emotionally. She confesses her love for him, and they reconcile, overcoming their past obstacles. They marry in a simple ceremony and live together in a secluded cottage on Rochester's estate. Jane becomes his caretaker and nurse, and their love grows deeper. Years later, Jane narrates that they have been happily married for 10 years and have a son. She also reveals that her uncle, John Eyre, has passed away, leaving her a considerable fortune. Jane uses her inheritance to help her newfound cousins, the Rivers siblings, who turn out to be her true family. Jane Eyre is renowned for its detailed exploration of Jane's inner thoughts and emotions, her moral dilemmas, and her journey towards self-discovery and independence. It remains a classic work of literature that challenges societal norms and presents a strong, resilient female protagonist.